All right, today we're tackling something huge, that massive leap students take into high school. We're going to break down what the research says it takes to support students with disabilities through this and explore how we can build a much, much better bridge for every single one of them. I want you to just think back for a second. Remember that feeling, the crazy mix of excitement and, let's be honest, pure terror. Trying to find your locker, getting lost in those packed hallways, and suddenly having like a dozen new teachers instead of just one. It's a lot for anyone. But for students with disabilities, this transition isn't just a jump. It can feel like a monumental leap across a massive canyon. It's not just about new classes and friends. They're often up against a whole new world of academic, social, and even physical challenges. And that can be a huge source of anxiety for them and for their families. So, the big question is, how do we get this right? Well, the research is super clear on this. There is no magic bullet. Not one single thing is going to fix it. A successful transition really depends on an entire ecosystem of support, with all these different layers connected and working together. It's a powerful idea, and we're going to walk through it layer by layer. So here's the game plan. We're going to start right where we should, with the student at the very center. Then we'll zoom out to look at the web of collaboration that needs to be around them. From there, we'll go even wider to the big systems holding it all together. We'll even touch on some pretty big gaps in what we know before we wrap it all up. Okay, first up, and this is the most important layer of all, the student. Everything, and I mean everything, has to start with them. It's all about person-centered support. The research really points to three critical things here. First, you have to start early, like way earlier than you might think. Some studies say planning should kick off in year 4 or 5 to give everyone enough runway. Second, every single plan has got to be individualized. This isn't about their disability label. It's about their unique strengths, their passions, their needs. And third, and this might be the most important part, you have to center the student's voice. They need to be in the driver's seat, making decisions about their own life. That's how you build real self-determination. I mean, this quote from the research really says it all. It's about a total shift in perspective. Students and their families aren't just people we provide a service to. No, they are the experts. They are the key knowledge holders, the advocates, and the decision makers in this whole process. Of course, a great student-centered plan can't just exist in a bubble. It needs support. So let's zoom out to our second layer, that connecting web of collaboration that has to surround them. Real collaboration between the primary and high schools is so much more than just sending a file over. It's about teachers from the primary school actually going to visit the high school with the students. It's about high school teachers coming to the primary schools to see kids in an environment where they're comfortable. It means having shared documentation so that critical information doesn't fall through the cracks. And this is key. The teamwork can't just stop on day one. It has to keep going long after that student has started high school. The other critical link, of course, is between home and school. And wow, the research shows a massive difference between what works and what really doesn't. Success is built on things like accessible communication, real respect, and clear expectations. Where all breaks down is with inconsistent messages, staff who are intimidating, or when the entire weight of advocating for the child falls on the parents' shoulders. It's gotta be a true partnership. Okay, let's zoom out one more level. For all those individual plans and all that collaboration to actually work, they need to be held up by some serious organizational scaffolding. We're talking about the systems and structures within the school and the whole education system. So, what does that scaffolding look like? Well, the research boils it down to 3 essential pillars. First, high-quality teacher training. Staff need real, practical training on specific disabilities and transition practices. Second, you gotta have resources. That means funding is accessible and it's allocated based on what students actually need, not just some rigid formula. And third, you need clear policies that spell out who's responsible for what, so there's no confusion about who's supposed to be leading the charge. But support isn't just about the paperwork and the meetings. This is so important. It's about the entire feeling, the climate of the school. We're talking about things like genuinely positive attitudes from teachers, creating sensory-friendly spaces, having a dedicated safe space for students when they're overwhelmed, and of course, rock-solid anti-bullying policies. The school environment itself is one of the most powerful forms of support there is. So we've got this great 3-layer model, right? It sounds really solid. But the research itself has a major blind spot. We have to ask a really important question. Who are we missing in all this? Okay, just look at this. The evidence we have is incredibly skewed. Out of the 39 studies that were reviewed, a whopping 23 of them focused specifically on students with autism. Now compare that to just a handful for other disabilities.
And while those insights are super valuable, it means we have these massive knowledge gaps for students facing other challenges, like mobility issues or chronic illnesses.
And it goes even deeper than that. The research has another huge blind spot when it comes to students with intersecting identities. There is almost no focus on the unique experiences of First Nation students, or kids from culturally and linguistically diverse families, or those who live out in rural areas. If we really want to build a bridge for all students, our understanding has to get much, much broader. So, where does all of this leave us? Let's pull all these pieces together and look at what it really takes to build that better bridge for every single student. The big takeaway here is this: you can't just do one part well and call it a day. Effective support is an ecosystem. It absolutely requires that personalized, student-centered planning right at the heart of it all, connected by that strong web of collaboration between schools and families, and all of it has to be held up by solid systems like training, resources, and policies. When you get all three layers working together, that's when you build a really strong bridge.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to take away. I want you to think about the schools in your own community, right where you live. Is the bridge from primary to high school truly built to support every student, especially those who need it the most? The research gives us the blueprint, but it's up to all of us to make sure that bridge actually gets built.